Since we first heard that iconic Level 1 Super Mario Bros. Theme, it became apparent that video games and music would be walking hand in hand. Many games have used their soundtracks and music to incorporate themes and feelings that the game is trying to instill into its players, with many games becoming very well known for the quality of their soundtracks and music. From iconic classics like Legend of Zelda and its overworld theme, to Chrono Trigger, which brings about a tinge of nostalgia to all who enjoyed the golden age of RPGs on the Super Nintendo. But video gaming is a very personal experience, and many people have not played the same games or even heard the same soundtracks. And even those who have, those songs within a game can be very important to the individual depending on the experiences and time that it was played. Sure, there are the classics, the Castlevanias, the Civs, the Legend of Zeldas, and the Metroids, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Here at the Blue Wizard Project, we're going to be talking about those songs and games that were important to us growing up. The ones that weren't very well known sometimes, or maybe they were but for the wrong reasons. We're not going to be hitting the classics here, so sadly no Mega Man X despite its quality, but what we're going to be doing is hoping to bring a new light to video games and music to those of you who are watching, and hopefully inspire you to check out some of these games, or remember those times growing up when you were inspired by video games and those songs that really stuck with you, and bring back a sense of nostalgia to a youth that was a much simpler time. Now join us while we move into the 64-bit era and Sony's first console, the PlayStation. I believe you're up, Jonna.
Yep, it is my turn in this completely not broken, uninterrupted, single recording of this video.
Exactly.
All right, my next song is from the game Threads of Fate. And I believe this is another one of the Square Soft non-Final Fantasy games. I'm pretty sure they made this one.
It is. It's a Squaresoft game.
Yeah. I thought that the name of this song was Corona Forest, but Ian told me that it's also called, what was it? Through the Forest?
Passing Through the Forest. It just has a bunch of names.
Yeah. So it's literally the first, like, I guess, not dungeon because it's outside, but for first enemy area in the game. So if you haven't played Threads of Fate, it is a action RPG, and you play through it twice. There's like a guy and a girl. The girl is more melee based, and the guy uses magic where he like basically you capture the abilities of different bad guys, and then you can transform into them, and they each have different combat moves and stuff like that, and use them to solve puzzles and stuff. For the time that this game came out, it was a really great game.
Was it?
It was fun. Like, it wasn't like amazing. It wasn't like groundbreaking, but it was fun. But it hasn't aged well. It has a lot of platforming and stuff in it. Not necessarily like in some of the boss fights and stuff like that. You have to jump back and forth from different platforms and stuff. And as you're probably well aware of, PlayStation 1 era games that required jumping or 3D movement have not aged particularly well.
Not what one would call the best by any stretch of the imagination.
The story is kind of dumb in this game. It's kind of like one of those really crappy animes where everyone's like, oh, that person's personality is they're the angry one, and that person's personality is they are the competitive one, and that's like all the depth the characters get.
Basically, if you're gonna play as Mint, who's the girl, because she's way more. She's also way more amusing and interesting than Rue.
Yes,
because Mint's goal is to basically be an evil queen bitch.
Yeah, basically, pretty much. Like, she is a good guy, but only reluctantly. Reluctantly. But like I said, at the time it came out, it was a fun game. I enjoyed it a lot when it first came out. I played through it recently, maybe like a year or two ago. Did not stand the test of time. But the music is still pretty good in some of the game. Not all of it. It's kind of spotty. But this song is cool. It is very relaxed. It starts off very relaxed and then kind of picks up a little bit. Sets a good tone for the game. The game's not particularly challenging. And so the song, I think, kind of captures that. Like, it sets the tone of like a good dungeon. It's an area that you're going to go back to a lot, but it is a good mix of like calming and adventurous, and kind of sees you off on your adventure. It's a very good song for the opening area of a game. So not all the music's great in this game. Again, if you go back to it, if you can appreciate PlayStation games for what they were when they came out, then I would recommend the game. If you can't, then stay the hell away from it.
So here's the great thing. Do you remember the 2000 Collector CD Volume 3 Squaresoft demo disc?
That's quite the mouthful.
Well, do you remember they put out the 3 demo discs? They put out the 98 one, which had Xenogears, Bushido Blade 2, Musashi, and the 8 movie. And then they put out just 8, which was the demo disc.
Yep.
And then they put out the 2000 one. The 2000 one had Threads of Fate.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's where I first heard about this game, because it lets you play. It lets you play.
Remember why I got this game. I think it might have been a Christmas gift. I know that I had gotten I'd gotten the like smaller white PlayStation that you could buy the folding screen for that went on top. Like the portable monitor. I never got the portable screen for it. But I had that PlayStation, and I want to say I got that game that same Christmas. Like, maybe someone had picked it up for me. I think I got that one and Hoshigami Ruining Blue Earth, which is like a tactics game like Final Fantasy Tactics, very much in that vein. That it has a ton of content. I almost picked some songs from that game, but I never beat the game, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember how far into the game those songs were and stuff like that.
but that demo disc is where I actually, because it lets you play that first level, and I heard that song, and I was like, "Oh, this is interesting. This is a good song. This might be an interesting game."
Definitely starts out a lot stronger than it ends.
Yeah, it definitely does. That was a good demo disc because of that. The demo disc also had, just for FYI, Legend of Mana movie, the Chrono Cross movie. Like these are those preview movies.
Yeah.
Chocobo's Dungeon 2, Chocobo Racing, and Front Mission 3.
All the classics.
And Legend of Mana. Actually, Front Mission's another series that I feel like I'd love to talk about sometime. Those games are great.
I've never played one.
Oh, they're so good. They're so good. I would recommend them, definitely.
I did play a lot of demo discs. There was the Spank game. I forget what his real name is. Like
the Spanking game. That's what it is.
It's like you play as this like dog person in a robot suit that
I love
Tail Concerto, I think it's called, something like that. And you have this machine where you're fighting these cats, but its hand is like this weird spanking animation, and you like spank the cats and then they fly into bubbles or something like that.
I love every word you just said.
It was real weird. I never played the real game, but we always referred to it as the spanking game.
That's hilarious. All right, so my last of the like regular choices, I like I said, I'm just gonna stick to the working designs thing here. There's a theme, and that is working designs was awesome, and they should have been supported more.
Yep. Working design should have been as big as SquareSoft or Enix.
They really should have. The big thing with the working designs actually is that they apparently had put in the bid for Grandia originally, but Sony outbid them for the translation rights.
Did not know that.
Yeah, so they could have been the ones to translate Grandia, and that could have been amazing. But alas, that world does not exist. Instead, we have a world.
I've never played Grandia 2.
Oh,
never played the other one.
Grandia 1's amazing. Go play it.
I have it on my Vita. It's on the to-do list.
But speaking of not Grandia, I'll get to another
Donkey Kong 64.
No, you shut the fuck up about Donkey Kong 64. Spoilers, when we do 64, that game is not on my list.
It's only got one good song, and it's before the game starts.
And he's not wrong. But no, the game I'm going with is Alundra, because that game's fucking amazing. And the song I'm going with is the last level theme, actually, called The Shrine of the Lake. So the reason I picked this song is multiple reasons. First off, Alundra is the best Legend of Zelda game until I heard Breath of the Wild's amazing. Like nothing but awesome. So I'm gonna say Alundra was the best Legend of Zelda game until Breath of the Wild. No, it's a really goddamn good game. It's basically a Zelda game, but with a story that matters.
You don't need story, man.
And it's rich. It's a lot more focused on the puzzles than the action aspects like Zelda is. So it's like take Zelda, put more emphasis on the puzzles than the action. And I won't even lie that Kid Ian, when I played this, I could not beat the game without a strategy guide. There are some puzzles in that game that just fucking rack your brain. And if you're under the age of 21, you don't have the patience to think about them.
I haven't played through that game either. That's another one.
Oh, it's so good though. And
I've played the beginning of it and I was enjoying it, and then I don't remember why I stopped. I think just some new game came out and pulled my attention away from it.
Yeah, the thing with Alundra is like
I didn't play it back in the day. I should say I played it like maybe 4 years ago or something.
Like this was actually a hard choice because the overworld theme is amazing. The game, the Klein's Dream, which anyone who played Alundra knows that Klein's Dream, it's like a quarter way through the game, is what they call the casual filter of that game. Klein's Dream will make or break if you can beat that game. If you can't get through that part, you're not beating the game.
Maybe that's where I stopped.
It really is the casual filter. But the long and short of it is that the story is just that you play as a guy named Alundra who can go into people's dreams. And he's investigating these issues in this small town where people are having nightmares in the night and dying because of what happens in their nightmares. And so it kind of sounds like he's going to go fight Freddy Krueger, but he's not. It goes into some other stuff instead. But the game definitely has a lot more story than a Zelda game, a lot more mature of a story in regards to like the stuff that they discuss, what happens in the game, the events and everything. But it's all done to a style that looks like a Zelda game, so it's very kind of like, oh, okay.
Breath of the Wild has some story, but like more than other Zelda games, but not a ton.
Yeah.
And you don't even have to see it. It's completely optional if you want to delve into it.
But yeah, no, just the last level of Alundra is so good. The Lake Shrine, which is the last level, is about 2 hours long. But I'm pretty sure in the entire last level there are 10, 15 enemies in the entire last level. It's all puzzles. It is just puzzle after puzzle after puzzle to figure out how to open the door that's right at the entrance. You walk in, there's a big door right in the entrance of the Lake Shrine. That's what you got to figure out how to open. And so it becomes a bunch of like puzzle solving and back and forth and like all this stuff.
What percentage of puzzles are pushing block puzzles? Because video games love those.
In the game or in the last level?
In the game in general.
I'd say 30%. But it's not always
classic video games.
But it's not always blocks because the reason, like, I'll just jump back to Clyde's Dream for a minute, is that it's pushing ice blocks that slide. And that's where it gets you.
On the video games.
Yeah, but like the puzzles in the shrine are very varied. There's like ones where you have to light up things in a certain order. There's a lot of platforming. You have to like find the key to go to these places, stuff like that. All kinds of different stuff. But no, it's just a fantastic level. It's a really good like nightcap to the game because everything that's happened to that point, the music's very somber. It's very solemn because like everything has just gone to shit by that point in the game. It's not like one of those things where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna go stop the bad guy before he does bad stuff. It's like, oh well, he already did bad stuff. Guess I gotta do something. The stuff he does is real bad. Basically, like other games where you're stopping the villain before their plans come to fruition, Alundra is a game where you're constantly chasing them after they succeed.
Yeah. Unless it's Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, that's the villain winning is always an interesting twist on it. But yeah, so that's my last normal
spoiler alert for Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, spoiler for Final Fantasy VI. The bad guy wins. If you know the spoiler alert time on that game is past.
um, Side note about the PlayStation era and the Final Fantasy games. It's funny that they put out basically every single Final Fantasy game, 1 through 9 on PlayStation. Except I don't think 3 was 3 ever on PlayStation.
Final Fantasy 3, no, that didn't come out
No,
to
I
the
think
DS.
that's the only one, right? Like, because 1 and 2 came out on it.
Yep, and so did 4 and 5.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yep.
And then instead of 3, we got a port of Chrono Trigger, even though it's on it's like Final Fantasy. Can't remember if that's Anthologies or Chronicles, but
I think it's Anthologies.
Is Chrono Trigger, but it's a terrible port of Chrono Trigger.
The only thing,
a whole fight before the music loads.
The only thing that makes that port good, to any extent, is the added movies.
Yep, and then they put those in the DS one, and that's the way better version.
Yeah, if you're gonna play a Chrono Trigger, play it on DS. Don't play it on PlayStation. Also, Final Fantasy V, don't play it on PlayStation.
Yeah,
it's way better.
Speaking of,
oh no, that was completely by mistake.
Worked flawlessly. So, as with all the other videos, our last choices are songs that don't necessarily follow the rules. Of being from games that aren't necessarily popular or songs that aren't popular, and we try to justify it. So I actually had 2 choices here that I was going to go through. One was from Jammer Lammy, which I don't necessarily think the music in that game is great, which is odd because it's a music game, but I do enjoy the game a lot. But I decided instead to go with a song from Final Fantasy V. So obviously the thing breaking the rule is that it's a Final Fantasy game, so they're popular. But I figured Final Fantasy V is probably one of the least popular Final Fantasies after maybe 2 and 3. So the song that I picked was My Home Sweet Home. which is just one of the town themes. It's if I'm not mistaken, it's from Butts' hometown, right?
Bart's.
Like, Butts.
Butts.
Butts. It's Butts, and no matter what they say or how they try to fix their mistake, it will always be Butts.
But yes, it's the town. It's the song that plays when you get to his hometown of.
To Butts' hometown.
What's his hometown called?
I'm blanking on the name right now. I should have looked this up before.
You goofed.
Butts' hometown.
Bart's. It doesn't matter.
Oh no! I'm just kidding.
But his town's called Licks.
Butts Licks. Wow, they really did not plan that one out well. That's how we got demonetized. Thanks, Final Fantasy V. But I really like this song because it, I don't know, it just feels like it captures that Super Nintendo RPG kind of laid back. Final Fantasy V, obviously, in the West came out on PlayStation, but it was originally released on the Super Famicom, so we didn't get it then because we got Secret of Evermore instead. But I just like the song. It's very chill. It feels very fantasy-esque, like almost like if I was playing a D&D game, I'd maybe want this in the background while the heroes are dicking around in the town. And I don't know, it seems very medieval fantasy-esque. I think it captures the tone of the game really well. Final Fantasy V is a fun game. Actually, the first time that I played it wasn't on PlayStation. I had played it on like a fan-translated, emulated copy, and it was not emulated well. So there's a part where you're like in a boat that's like half sunken, and the textures wouldn't load properly. So when you play it on PlayStation, for example, the water is clear.
Yeah.
But when you play it on the broken emulator, it's solid, so you can't see yourself. So we had to just map it out by going like, move one step. Did the camera move? Yes. Then I could move forward. And we used graph paper to like graph out.
Yeah, that's some old school. That's some old school stat hounds there. No, but the thing with
dedication
for me with Final Fantasy V, because it's the first one we got with the job system. I mean, because 3 had the job system, and 5 does, and then the eventual updated version of 12 and Tactics, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
But I thought the job system was really cool. I actually wasn't huge on 5 when I first played it. I went back and played it on the DS, was it, or the Game Boy Advance?
I think it was GBA.
And I liked it a lot better the second time. The one thing I really did love, though, like I said, I did like the job system a lot, but I was a big fan. I thought it, up until 15, I thought it had the best basic combat music of any Final Fantasy.
Yeah, that's true. That was actually a close second for me on this one.
Because it's so short, but it's high energy, it's tense, it sounds great, and it's just like, wow, that is really good. Just basic. I never got sick of it, where other games you get sick of hearing the basic combat music eventually. Or they're really good, but you never get to hear the whole song, like 7. Like, it's to hear all of 7's combat music, the fight has to take like 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, I think that they did a lot right with this game. It's not, I mean, it's obviously not top tier Final Fantasy for a reason. Like, the story drags a bit at some parts. The bad guy is generic as
the bad guy is an evil tree.
The bad guy you follow most of the game's name is X-Death. What else was he going to be but a bad guy if his name is X-Death? I guess he could have been like a doctor. That'd be pretty good, right? Like, that's what you would want your doctor to be. X-Death.
I stopped death from happening. I support the X-Death doctor lore now.
But yeah, listen to that song. It's cool. It captures that old Final Fantasy feel. Very good, chill music. If you're ever playing a D&D game or just want something to listen to in the background, recommend it.
Yeah, I think it's a good song. I was definitely like 5. It does have a good soundtrack. Not the best, but it has a good soundtrack. A lot of good songs.
It lives in that place with Chrono Cross, where like Chrono Cross is an excellent game, but it will always live in the shadow of Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
And Final Fantasy V is a very good game.
That'll live in the
But it will always live in the shadow of 6 and 4.
Unfortunate for itself. So speaking of games that live in the shadows,
Shadow the Hedgehog.
Oh no,
Boom.
got me, bam! Insert shadow video here. Actually, yeah, never mind. Anyway, I just thought of a bunch of different things to say, and I decided to pass on all of them for the.
They were probably all racist.
They were not. They were. They were Sonic the Hedgehog jokes I decided not to make. Oh, wow. Wow.
I thought that's why you wouldn't say them, is because you thought a bunch of racist stuff.
No, because no one wants Sonic the Hedgehog jokes. They're awful.
That's true. Some people do. There's a whole like Sonic the Hedgehog.
We're not. No, we're cutting off
YouTube.
this conversation right now.
They love it. It's like the worse the game, the more they love it. Glitching through walls, flying off into eternity. They're like, oh yeah, classic Sonic. Love it.
That's the Sonic I grew up with.
Yep.
But no, my last game is, or the game my last song is from is going to be Xenogears, and the song is called Shiva, The Wind is Calling. The song itself is played in the city of Shiva. Who would guess? What a novel song name! It's a song for the city of Shiva, but
it wasn't from Lick Butts?
Yeah, Lick Butts.
That's weird. That's weird.
But Xenogears is one of my favorite RPGs. Like, hands down, top 3 RPGs. Just
Never played it all the way.
Love Xenogears. I love the story, I love the characters, I love the setting, I love everything about it. And yes, the second disc is awful, and a lot
Wasn't
of stuff...
there a little kid with a really ugly haircut in the beginning of that game?
And a lot
you
of
love
stuff...
that too? You love that haircut?
No. You get to fight that kid in a tournament, though, which is hilarious.
Oh, sweet.
You get to punch that kid in his stupid haircut. You know, it's an RPG with mechs and crazy conspiracy stuff and magic, and you meet your daughter from 5,000 years ago who's a nanomachine built robot. It's crazy shit.
You know, logical stuff.
You climb the Tower of Babel, but actually that's going into Shiva. So Shiva, the reason I really like this song, one, I think it's just a good song, but halfway through the game you climb the Tower of Babel. As you're climbing it, you notice a few things. One of them, and this is a little bit of a spoiler, but I'm not going to get too into the details of it, just because I think John and a lot of people should play Xenogears. You notice that the tower is not a tower. It's a ship that's vertical. So instead of like that, it looks like a ship that's come down straight into the planet. And you start to notice this as you're climbing it, and you're like, wait a minute, something's really weird here. When you get to the top of it, mind you, the whole dungeon's a mech dungeon. That's how huge this ship is, that you have to traverse it in robots. But when you get to the top, there's a city at the top of there, a floating city. Because, of course, old school Square loves their floating...
You need a floating city.
You need a floating city. We're looking at you, Zeal.
Yep.
But it's a floating city called Shiva, and basically this is like the midpoint of the game. I would say when you first get to Shiva, it's about the middle of the game, and it's kind of where a lot of the story starts to come together, and like a lot of things start to like expand. Where it's definitely the story is starting to become bigger than, you know, just the characters and their issues and the civil war going on. Like it starts to like obviously there's something much larger at work here, and that's where the story really starts to like move towards that. So I think it's just a really good like, oh, this is kind of like the what do they call it, like the peak action or whatever, the
denouement.
Yeah, like the rising action kind of leads to
is that the end of, maybe that's I don't remember, maybe that's after the climax. I don't remember.
We aren't writers.
Nope. I laughed at Dick Butts earlier. Or Lick Butts? Lick Butts. You laughed. Dick Butts is always funny. Ian, throw a Dick Butt picture on the screen here in the video.
Done. Consider it done. But yeah, no, the Xenogears as a whole has an amazing soundtrack. There's so many good songs in that game. There's also some really...
is the end.
There's also some really bad songs in Xenogears. But the songs that are good are really, really goddamn good. And I definitely wouldn't suggest anyone play the game. Just it's another PS1 era Square game that just knocks it out of the park in so many ways, and it is flawed to hell. That game has so many problems.
Yep.
But listen, there's a reason Squaresoft themselves said PS1 was their golden era. And it's because of games like this and the ones we've talked about.
Is it because they made good games then?
Yes. Shut up. Hey, they make some good games now. They're
definitely getting better, but like
there was a period of time.
It's called all of the Xbox and Xbox 360 and PlayStation.
Yeah, that's right. Like last gen.
I'm looking at you, Final Fantasy 13.
You're right. Like that gen was not good for Squaresoft. Or Square Enix, I guess. Because PS2 era still had a lot of really good Square games.
Yep, there were still some good ones.
Yeah, so I guess really, you're right. The PS3, Xbox 360 era was not kind to them.
It was bad.
But they've definitely pulled it back in a lot of ways.
Not as much as it Like, they'll never get back to the glory days, but
until they release Einhander 2, then all is forgiven.
Do it, you cowards.
Do it. We're calling you out, Square. You have to listen.
That's the thing is, like, I've seen stories online where they're like, oh, like, rumblings about a Chrono Trigger remake. I'm like, you haven't earned that yet. Or like Chrono Trigger 2. You haven't earned that yet. Like, you need to prove yourself before you touch that franchise again.
They're never going to make another Chrono game. They're never getting all three of those people back together.
Nope, never.
You're never ever.
Do you think they'll make a Sonic game?
Didn't BioWare make a Sonic game?
Yeah, Sonic RPG on DS. I want to say it was on maybe 3DS, but I'm pretty sure it's DS. But Sonic Dark Chronicles, I think it's called.
Oh man, I had forgotten that was a thing. But you're never getting, you're never getting Akira Toriyama back with, Nobuo, back with who's the other really important guy in it? Sakaguchi, the designer. I think those are the three that are like the big, like this was Chrono Trigger.
It was like the perfect storm.
Yeah, you're never getting that back.
Nope.
It ain't happening. So we're going to leave on that somber note. There's never going to be a Chrono Trigger 2. It's as good as it gets, people.
Weep while you think about that.
And
don't forget to like and subscribe.
God damn it! I hate you. All right, until next time.